What's up, Canes fans? Peter Ariz alongside D Money, and we have a huge show for you tonight. Instant reaction. Hayden Lowe, one of the top defensive ends in the country, number 3 player in the state of California, a guy that D Money has been telling you Miami staff has been trying to flip for some time here, has flipped his commitment officially from USC to Miami, and we are here to talk about it all tonight here on the CanesInSight podcast. D, this is one that you've been talking about for some time. You talked about these 6 guys that Miami's really trying to flip right now, and this is a huge one.
Yeah, we did the bank last week, talked about the battleground recruits. We had the election on our brains. So the battleground states, we had the battleground recruits. These were 6 committed recruits that were extremely high priority for Miami to flip. Miami wanted to land at least 3 of them. That's kind of like par for having a top 10 really good, strong recruiting class that keeps you on that championship hunt. And then anything you get over that 3, now you get better and better and better. So when I wrote the bank on CanesInSight, which you can check for free, 7 million posts and counting, CanesInsight.com, I listed Hayden Lowe first. That was for a reason, both where he stands in our priority list and how likely he was. There was a lot of momentum there to flip him from USC, and Miami was able to seal the deal. There's a guy Miami believes is a potential first-round type talent for the NFL draft. He is from the same high school in Los Angeles, Oak Christian, as Kayvon Thibodeau. You may remember was the number 1 player in the country, ended up signing with Oregon with Mario Cristobal. Mario Cristobal had it for 3 years, ended up being a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. They would love to repeat that with Hayden Lowe. Very similar player when you talk to people around the Miami program as far as a defensive end that has power, that has athleticism, that plays with a very high motor. He's having a great senior year. He was already highly rated, but is having a great senior year. I think he's up to 44th nationally, according to 247, as far as overall players. Top 5 defensive end in the country. And I saw him in person when he visited for spring on an unofficial visit. And I asked somebody, I'm like, is this an alumni of another school? I didn't recognize the face. I thought he was an NFL player coming back, and I was trying to figure out who he was because he didn't look like any Miami player on you. Then I asked around. They said, no, that's a high school junior, rising senior, Hayden Lowe. At that point, I knew this guy was for real. Again, he looks just like a NFL player. Physically, he's easily 245 plus, 6'4 plus, and he plays with such a high motor and physicality level that you feel very confident that he's going to be a productive player at the University of Miami.
Yeah, and these are his junior highlights, so nothing on his huddle yet from his senior year, but like you said, has been very productive. So you see his physical ability here. You see the length, the strength, the flexibility. I mean, he and like you said, he's the number 3 defensive end in the country, and number 3 player in the state of California, according to 247. So, a great pickup here. And to me, I mean, hopefully sets the tone for what's to come in terms of flips here.
And yeah, 100%. This is the right one to start with. You win championships with big defensive linemen. I always talk about it. And this guy's he'll be a 250 pounder plus when he gets to Miami. So these are the kind of big players that you win championships with up front with the athleticism. Look at the first step, get off. And then, of course, the motor to finish. He's extremely twitchy. He can move. He's not just a size speed guy. He has pass rush ability. But one thing that I want to point out is Mario Cristobal is proven to be one of the best recruiters of the West Coast in the entire country at Miami. We know he was that at Oregon. He's probably the best recruiter of the West Coast at Oregon when he was there. But now, even as he goes to the whole other side of the country, he is still one of the top recruiters of the West Coast, period. Point blank. This is a kid that was committed to USC. He's from Los Angeles. He's clearly a big-time player. Lincoln Riley wanted him bad. He just said this morning he was going to shut down his recruitment and go to USC. Obviously, that turned out to not be true. But to go and get a guy like this from Los Angeles right in Lincoln Riley's face is a complete slap to Lincoln Riley, to the USC program, and showing that Miami is going to go out and get whoever they want on the West Coast, or at least battle for it. Look at players from the West Coast or from the Pacific area that Miami has landed since Mario Cristobal has been at the University of Miami that have been just big-time guys. You know, Francis Malinois, he's from American Samoa, so that's kind of its own territory, but certainly in the Pacific. He played a little bit of ball in California. Miami lands him all the way on the other side of the country. You talk about Riley Williams, the tight end, who's going to have a huge role next year, and he's got a lot of snaps this year, mostly as a blocker, made some catches as well. Number one player in Oregon, get him. Jaden Wayne didn't work out, but he was a top player in Washington, Seattle, Washington, when you got him, Tacoma, Washington, when you brought him in. Elijah Lofton from Las Vegas, who's probably one of Miami's top guys this year, the tight end / fullback from Las Vegas, Gorman. You go and get CJ Alafatuli this year, the number one interior lineman in the country, also from Las Vegas, Gorman.
SJ. You always say the CJ.
If I didn't have you, I'd get everybody's name wrong every show. So thank you, Pete. But I'm sure I'm missing a couple guys, but Miami has gone into the Pacific region, the West, and landed not just players that can play, but elite guys that, you know, if you're a USC, you have to answer to people why you're not getting these kind of players.
And, it's interesting, Diaz. I'm going to pull up another tweet here as we talk about, what this could mean in terms of the recruiting class and the next, few weeks here as the recruiting class closes for the early signing day. But Coach Mirabal tweeted this out. And if you're listening on audio, it's a picture of a dolphin. And the meme says they call him Flipper Flipper. So I think the staff understands that the class will be defined by what they do here in the closing month.
Yeah, like I said, 6 battleground recruits, so 1 down. So now you're down to 5. This was a huge one. It's the only defensive line or defensive end on the list. You also have Jarquez Carter, a defensive tackle committed to Ohio State from Florida. TJ Alford, a linebacker from Florida, committed to Ohio State. So those are 2 that you've had a lot of success flipping guys from Ohio State and USC, quite frankly. Hilton Stubbs, who's a Florida guy, but you flipped him earlier from USC's class, who's one of the top safeties in the country. So Lincoln Riley really not liking Mario this cycle. But you look at Ohio State, got 2 guys we want, both from Florida. The Gators, 2 guys we want, both from Florida, and then 1 from LSU, DJ Pickett, who we all know the ties that he has to the Hurricane program. So that's what you're looking at, those 5. If you land 2 more, I think you're at par. You're going to have a top 10 class. You're going to have a very good class. If you get more than 2 of those guys, on top of what you already did with Hayden Lowe, now you're really creeping up into an outstanding class. This was a huge first step because we're running out of time. We talked about it today on the podcast with Mike Ryan that, time's ticking. There's less than a month until signing day. So Miami really needs to put the pedal to the metal. They're doing it. You saw Dennis Smith's tweet. He said, we're not taking no for an answer. I think he said 20 days left until signing day. So he's pushing. This was the first big step.
Can you imagine what Hayden Lowe will look like once he starts to get some of this good Cuban food down here in Miami, D?
He might be playing defensive tackle if he's going to Islas Canarias, the number one Cuban restaurant in the world. You have it down there out west, the restaurant, but you also can go to the Dayland Dining Pavilion, the food court. You get 7 types of croquetas. The bistec empanizado, legendary. Look at that right there with the little chips on top and the onions. I mean, this is authentic Cuban as it gets. 40 years in the game. If you talk to any Cuban from Miami and you mention this name, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. It is the spot. It is just the most authentic. Pause for the addresses there, Pete. 13695 Southwest 26, and then also 3804 Southwest 137th. These are the brick and mortar restaurants, but you can also go to the one in Dayland right there, centrally located. It's going to have all the classic items. So anywhere in Miami, you can get Islas Canarias, even have it at the Marlins games there. This is the spot. If you want to get the shirt that I was wearing on the podcast with Mike today, the Croqueta County gear, you can get that at croquetacounty.com. But man, just an unbelievable just first step in the close with a Hayden Lowe. He is an absolutely essential piece of this class. You pair him with Herbert Scroggins, who's having a really, really good senior year and just a great career in Savannah, Georgia. He's more of your jack linebacker, but a really good jack linebacker. Hayden Lowe's more of your base defensive end. So you have your fast guy in Scroggins and then your powerful guy in Lowe. Those 2, productive, high motor, super talented, 4-star guys, big senior years, exactly what you want at both those positions. Miami had a great defensive end class last year. Of course, Ruben Bain the year before that. And now you get these two. Miami's doing very, very well at the defensive end position. Jason Taylor just doing a hell of a job.
And just wrapping things up here on the flip of Hayden Lowe from USC to Miami, it seemed like we've been talking about it. You've been talking about it, that Miami was pursuing this, but it feels like nationally this was a little bit of a surprise. You mentioned the article coming out earlier today of Hayden Lowe saying he was locked in with USC. But listen, if DJ Pickett or Ben Hanks did this today, I don't think people would have been too surprised, because it's been well noted that Miami's been on them. But I think nationally, and I think in terms of the snowball effect, this has some shock feel to it because of the fact that you're going across the country.
Yeah, but yes, it does. But this is someone who visited unofficially. So he spent his money to come here and visit the University of Miami. Again, I saw him in person, thought he was an NFL player. His coach, Charles Collins, NFL player, played with Mike Rumpf at San Francisco 49ers. Of course, he knows Jason Taylor and who he is. Also knows Mario Cristobal, because Mario Cristobal recruited Kayvon Thibodeau. I think that familiarity made a huge difference. If you're talking about Cristobal, he could say, listen, I'm going to treat this guy like I treated Thibodeau. He went in as a stud, and he came out as a stud, as a high draft pick. So if you want me to follow the formula with your player, what better formula? Similar to Penei Sewell and Francis Malinois. Now, there wasn't a coaching tie there, but obviously there was a cultural tie there. But a similar kind of story where when you get one big name recruit and turn him into a top 10 player, you can say, hey, listen, you're very similar to this guy. You've been compared to him your whole life. Come with me. We'll follow the same formula. That if Penei Sewell became Francis Malinois, Kayvon Thibodeau is now becoming Hayden Lowe. That's why it's so important to win these big-time battles and to turn these guys into top 10 picks. You can get Cam Ward as a top 10 pick, Ruben Bain. Now you're just repeating the formula here, and you're convincing people, hey, if you want to be the next this guy, come to me. Obviously, the wide receiver is probably the biggest one right now. You want to be the next Restrepo. Miami can produce a first-round receiver. That would certainly be a good mold. You saw Alabama do something similar to that, where they were always selling the next Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, and on and on. But this is what happens when you win these big-time battles. You can sell the next guy to be that player for you, and you have a blueprint that's clear as day with Hayden Lowe. He's going to see the opportunity to play. You have a lot of jack linebackers right now, meaning these are the stand-up, skinnier linebackers. You signed Lightfoot last year. You signed Elijah Rudolph last year. You signed Booker Pickett, who had a sack last week against Duke.
I'm going to do it again, D. Elias.
What'd I say? Elijah?
Elijah.
That's my son's name, too. How did I screw that one up? My son's Elias.
Well, because there's 17 Elijahs on the team right now. I always get confused when it's Elijah Arroyo, Elijah Lofton, and Elijah Alston, and they're all kind of like the last names sound similar. So I literally always pause a little bit. It's not because I can't remember them, but it takes me a second to process it. So I'll let that one slide a little bit.
That's Eli, my son. He's not Elijah. He's Elias. He's Elias. So I should have known that one. So shame on me. But Elias Rudolph, he's a really talented guy. But all those guys, plus Herbert Scroggins, skinnier pass rushers, outside linebackers, edge stand-up guys. We needed a powerful physical end. You have Cole McConaughey. Obviously, you have Ruben Bain. Now, this is that version of player in this class, Hayden Lowe, a tremendous addition. And we've talked about it, Pete. In my opinion, the separator between the haves and the have-nots in college football, 250-plus pound defensive linemen. Those guys are hard to find. They are rare. The big bodies, the guys that are 6'4+, 250+, of course, a lot of those guys play defensive tackle, and Jarquez Carter is a name that we talked about as a potential guy to add. But sometimes they're like Armando Blunt, where they're kind of tweeners. They play both. Ruben Bain, they're just big defensive ends, big bodies. Hayden Lowe is that. He's going to be 250+ by the time he gets on campus. He might be up to 260. Again, I saw him in person, and he looked the part. But he's going to play with motor. He's going to play with physicality and power and bend. He's not going to get knocked back. We had a lot of problems setting the edge against Georgia Tech. These are guys that can do it, are capable of doing it. So just a huge get. It was like last year we lost to Georgia Tech and we landed Nye Carr, the coveted receiver out of Georgia. This year lose to Georgia Tech, land Hayden Lowe. So there's a silver lining for these Georgia Tech losses, is landing these big time top 100 type players.
We'll see who we need to flip in 2030, man, because that's the next time we play Georgia Tech. So Hopefully we've won the ACC a few times and picked up a national title in the next five years. But listen, you keep getting guys like this and you keep flipping players like this, then it'll happen sooner rather than later. So huge get tonight in Hayden Lowe, again flipping from USC to Miami, a top 50 player in the country, nationally number 3 player in California, number 3 defensive end in the country. And hopefully, again, snowball effect here. Remember to keep it locked on CanesInSight. D-Money is going to bring you the bank, hopefully pretty much every week here moving forward. I mean, we got
it's crunch time.
Yeah, so
sometimes
like and subscribe. Sometimes info gets tight around this time because the coaches, everyone's working hard to make these flips. But listen, we knew they were working on it, but we didn't necessarily know this was going to happen tonight. So I like these surprises. Hopefully a few more of them here coming down the stretch.
Yeah, look, no one's been banging the drum on Hayden Lowe more than us. We've been saying it every time we've talked about prospects. He's been a high priority guy. So we've got 1 down, 5 to go. Pay attention, subscribe or sign up for the CanesInsight.com forums. They're free. You get the best information. It's just nonstop posting and updates and info and debate and news and little tidbits, big tidbits. That's where you want to be for recruiting season. CanesInsight.com and sign up and go to the forums and just like plug it. It's like it's addictive. It's worse than heroin that during this time of year. But go to CanesInsight.com and then like and subscribe to this podcast. We'll be coming to you daily. Shout out to Anajar and Levine. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. But man, it's going to be fun, Pete. Hopefully do a few more of these and get this class closer up that top 10. I think we're ranked 10th right now in the composite. Obviously, there's names that are going to come off the board and move other teams up, move other teams down. But Miami wants to keep this momentum and keep adding from that list of 5.
Yeah, I've been saying top 5. I know we've been trying to do the math on it and kind of see what how that would happen. Maybe it's just outside of the top 5, but you said the par number would be 3. If they get 4 of them, does that do it? We'll see. But exciting to now track it here down the stretch. Obviously, we're excited about the season, but recruiting is what leads to this success on the field. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all the social medias as well that you see underneath here, because a lot of the content we have here, we have different forms of content on there as well. And, appreciate the support as always. So go Canes.
Go Canes.
This an insight to the Canes, and we ain't playing no games. Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we do. Home of the legends and 7th floor crew. Down in Miami where hurricanes brew. You here for the rumors, we bring you the news. Cause it's all about the you. And nobody do it like CanesInSight. Nobody